The website was was definitely the turning point for Heritage. In 1996, we have a board meeting. Todd's a member of our board, he's one of my partners, and we have a board meeting once a month where all the partners and a half dozen of our top managers meet and go over a myriad of topics. And I remember that in 1996, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but in internet age, of course, it was the ice age. And we discussed, and nobody will really admit to having made this statement, but we said, you know, this internet is something, nobody will ever do any business on this, but maybe we should spend a couple $1 million and build a really fabulous website and make it like a public library for coin collectors, a great resource for them to come to, and load it full of all the content and all the information that coin collectors need, but they have to register, and so we'll be able to market to them. We thought, wow, that's a good idea. So we built the website in 1996. A few weeks later, we got a phone call from a fellow. I will preface this by saying this part of my talk tonight does sound a little canned. I've given it before when I've given talks about Heritage's internet presence. But one of our people came down the hall and said, hey, I just got a call from a man in Western Pennsylvania. He has a coin collection, sounds like it's worth about $300,000. He just inherited it, and I think you should call him. Picked up the phone, called him back, made arrangements to leave the next morning. Flew on a big plane, flew on a small plane, drove on a freeway, a highway, and a country road, and went out to this very nice house on a lake in Western Pennsylvania, and sat at the dining room table and looked at this fabulous coin collection this man had inherited from his father, and gave him an estimate of $700,000. He about fell over. We did all the paperwork. I packed all the coins in the 2 big briefcases that I brought with me, and we're sitting there, and I said, you know, your father would have known who Heritage is because he was obviously a very serious collector. I said, but he's not here. I said, how did you find us? And he said, well, it's an interesting story. He said, my father always said, I have a very valuable coin collection. And he always put a lot of emphasis on very. And so after he died, there's a coin shop about 20 miles from here. And so I packed up all the coins and I took them over to the coin shop one Saturday, and they offered me $25,000. And I thought, well, you know, $25,000 is a lot of money. It's about what my dad spent on a new Chevy every few years. I don't think he would have put such emphasis on very when he was telling me that he had a very valuable coin collection. So there's a computer at the library in town. And so I thought I'd do a little research. And I went into the library and I looked up coin companies, and there was really only 2 that had websites, you and a company in New York. I thought, well, I'm in Pennsylvania, they're in New York, that's pretty close. I called them up and they said, well, pack the coins in a box, take them down to your post office, insure them for $25,000, and put your phone number in it. When they arrive here, we'll call you and let you know what you've got. And I thought, you know, even if they're only worth $25,000, I don't know who these people are. That didn't seem like such a good idea. So you were the next ones that I called, and lo and behold, here you are sitting here the next day. And now you're telling me the collection's worth $700,000. I can't believe it. It brought $920. Hammered at $920,000. So I remember getting into my rent car and getting out onto the road and taking out my phone, which from the movie Wall Street, where Gordon Gekko has that big Motorola phone that's the size of a shoebox. That was the phone that I had. And I took the phone out and I called Steve Ivey and Jim Halpern. I said, you won't believe this. I've got a coin collection I'm bringing back for our next auction worth $700,000, and it's because the man found us on the internet from our website. And that was the beginning. And now we have 950,000 members on our website in 186 countries. And it's kind of been an overnight success. It just kind of took 40 years to do it. But the people that built our website, I think we've spent $20 million at this point on building and maintaining our website, and it's the best thing we could have ever done. It used to be if you were a collector and you didn't travel to a coin show and the coin show wasn't in New York or Long Beach or a major city, you had to get a dealer to go there for you, and you gave the dealer the amount of money that you wanted to pay at the auction for a coin. And you paid the dealer a fee, so there was some friction there. But by creating online bidding, which we have the patent on, all of a sudden you get to bid against other people, of course, and you get confidence by seeing other people bid against you, and you don't necessarily stop bidding at what you wanted to pay, the number you would have given to your agent to go to the auction for you, you get some auction fever, some excitement, and some confidence by other people with real money that are bidding against you. And so when we developed the website, the prices realized that we started getting it was almost instantaneous that they dramatically increased. So as collectors noticed that the prices dramatically increased, consignments dramatically increased. As consignments dramatically increased, our market share dramatically increased. So having been 6 years earlier, the 5th largest auction company, all of a sudden we were in really half a dozen years bigger than all the other 5 auction companies combined. And not really through any plan to be larger, but really just trying to use the internet and be as good as we could be. We've always, Jim especially, Jim Halpern has really been the one that has driven all of our expansion online. When we built the internet platform for bidding, we thought, well, we could clone this and for other categories. And so the first thing we did was to go to Len Glazer and Ellen Mincho and incorporate their Currency Auctions of America company into Heritage using our bidding platform. We've grown that business about 800% since we bought it from them. And then soon thereafter, Jim is a huge comic book collector, of the rarest comic books there are. He's a brilliant genius about comic books. And so he finally convinced Steve and I that we should have a comic book auction. And at that time, Christie's and Sotheby's each had 1 comic book auction a year. And combined, they sold about $3.5 million a year in comic books. So we hired on a day rate all these comic experts and put together our first comic auction. It brought a little under $2 million. And then our next comic auction that we had, Nicolas Cage consigned his multi-million-dollar comic book collection to us. Soon thereafter, Stan Lee, the creator of Spider-Man and the Hulk and the living legend of comicdom, Stan's lawyer was friends with Nick Cage's lawyer and said to Stan, you're not getting any younger. These people just got millions for Nick Cage for his comic book collection. The check cleared. Why don't you give them a call and see if they can help you with some of your stuff? And that really, I would say Stan Lee really launched us because he let us use his name. All the golden age of comic artists that idolized Stan called him and said, are they really getting you those prices? Are they actually paying you? And Stan would come to the auctions. He would appear in our videos. We never paid him a dime for it. He wanted to do it. And all of a sudden we started getting the greatest comic books and comic art there is. And now in just comic books, we sell, Todd, what do we sell in comic books, 35 million?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least 35 million a year in comic books and more than that in comic art. So from a business that was $3.5 million a year, it's now, just for us, it's 20 times that size. And one thing we discovered was that people who are collectors, who have that genetic defect like I have too, to be a collector, you're prone to collect in other categories. And so we started cross-marketing into other categories, and we started looking for other categories to add because of the success of currency and comics. And so then sports came quickly, and then comic art came out to illustration art to fine art. I won't bore you with the whole list, but now there's 40 categories, mostly from acquiring businesses who are run by very, very ethical, intelligent, brilliant specialists who didn't have a website, who didn't have financing, who didn't have a big platform, but who had a great reputation, a great name, and great expertise. And so we brought them to, usually brought them to Dallas right away, and folded their business into Heritage and made a new department. And that's how we've grown most of the 40 businesses that we now have. We continue looking at the future, continue to try to figure out ways to expand the hobby, minimize friction for collectors, make it easier for people to acquire things they want, make it easier for people to make money by reducing transaction costs. We try very, very hard to save people time. The other thing we try to do is to build our website so that people can not pick up the phone if they don't want to, because we know that we've heard, and because we're collectors too, Steve, Jim, myself, Todd, we all collect different things. We know that most other auction companies have websites that are designed as pieces to be very pretty. And they are designed to be pretty and elegant and want you to pick up the phone and call them. But what we found is that, and what we've heard from our clients, is that when you call those specialists on the phone, generally they're not in their office. and oftentimes they don't return the phone messages that you leave them. And that's not a very effective way to do business, and it doesn't honor people's time and their valuable time. And so our website may not be super elegant looking, but we try to load it full of all the information that people would need for wherever in the world, wherever in those 186 countries that they live, whatever time of the day it is, for them to log in, get all the third-party pricing information that they need to make a decision that would make them comfortable spending $100, $1,000, $1 million, $100 million without ever having to pick up the phone. We're happy to talk to them if they want to call, but they don't have to. And that's kind of been some secret sauce that we've done. So we try to make it very easy for people to collect and give them the resources and the tools that they need.